See whether Weibo can bounce back. They're on that blue side. This is something that we said was likely to happen. I think that Weibo should be aiming for a better top lane matchup than that last one. LNG immediately ban out the Rumble. Will one of these teams ban out Renekton? We could legitimately see first pick Renekton because Breathe is so good during the laning phase at using that champion to snowball that it could become a huge issue. One last ban for LNG. What's the call? You can ban out Leona. You can ban out the Renekton. Isn't that many options? Well, not many options to lock out all of the power picks, really. So they have to choose one of them. Choose your poison. Hovering over this ban for a very long time, and it is their Renekton. So that's going to be the Rumble and the Renekton, two of the strongest individual laners on the patch taken away. But the Leona, very, very strong. It has been the choice of supports across the entirety of the LPL. Very tanky, very good in laning phase, and also just very, very good at finding your engages consistently beyond that point. We had years of Leona Nautilus. It was Nautilus then just only by himself, and now it's Leona's turn to really return to the kind of the throne of the support role. On the other side now, LNG. They could have gone towards something like that. Ziggs, it's now a likelihood that Weibo can go towards that for light. They can lock in that Ziggs-Leona combo if they wanted to do so. LNG instead locking in Gala's Ezreal. Got a pentakill on it the last game, so returning to that one again. Didn't even smile as he got that penta because, let's be honest, it's Gala. He is the Iceman. And LNG will be looking out to round out their first round of picks. Alistair being hovered, so they're looking towards that front line. So I think the game plan now for LNG is to say, okay, get Ezreal to survive in this lane, Alistair roaming, match Chris to Hung. That's typically what happens with the Leona-Alistair matchup. Ezreal very happy to sit alone 1v1 in a matchup. Could potentially see Light or Chris, Light go towards something which can kill out the Ezreal a bit stronger now. You can go towards something which is a bit more lane dominant. You could go towards Kai'Sa for the assassination. We have seen Misfortune crop up a fair amount. This is a genuine hover. It can be very, very strong. And sadly for someone like Alistair, you can't reach the Misfortune that easily. I like this now from Weibo because they see on the other side that the Ezreal and the Alistair are very good at kind of like staying stable in lane because the Ezreal can always get access to farm, and then the Alistair goes through into roaming elsewhere on the map. You don't have that option against a Misfortune which dunks on lane so much. Now, Xiaohu had that Tristan in the last game. Won't have access to that one in this case. You do need some magic damage from somewhere though. Tarzan could snap up the brand. That's been a big champion for him. Instead, Lucian mid. Funnily enough, Xiaohu was
one of the better ones.
Not one of the better ones. He was the first one. MSI 2016 against SKT. Xiaohu pulled out the Lucian mid versus Faker's Orianna and solo killed him in lane. He was the first high-tier Lucian mid player. This is a blast from the past. Haven't got to see that much Lucian mid over the last couple of years. It was moved into a bot lane role. It's back now, though, and Xiaohu will want to use that to control the mid lane.
And between the various R buttons of the two AD carries, whoever gets hit by the Solar Flare is about to be in a world of hurt. Even the likes of the K'Sante, unless it's a very good W, could be really suffering there. At least the Alistair and the K'Sante do have ways to potentially deal with that. Potentially, again, Light will have to be positioning very carefully here, because Misfortune notorious for not having the highest in-range or mobility unless her ultimate is from across a wall or whatever.
However, the Alistair really struggles to get to the MF, especially through the E, because you just get slow. It means that you can't get into that headbutt pulverized range. So I think that the Misfortune is a great lock-in, seeing that you can see that LNG banning away some of the champions, which could give Breathe a better top lane matchup. One of the things which I was mentioning at the start of the draft is that Rumble and the Renekton ban, very key to make sure that Breathe can't get one of those complete lane stomping champions. I think they might have to ban away either the Twisted Fate or the Cannon. It's one of the two. I wonder if they get rid of that Cannon. Can be very, very powerful, and Breathe is a player of it. Tarzan maybe eyeing up something like a Brand if you go towards the Twisted Fate on the other side to get the magic damage from elsewhere. Instead, it's going to be that Jax ban, which means that Breathe still has really good options in that top side of varying kind of categorizations.
And the Jax ban, as you said, is something that Breathe is pretty famous for. Gonna have to find something else to match into this. At the Rumble, of course, taken away by LNG. They did not manage it very well last game at all, so getting rid of that one makes some sense. Gala back on the Ezreal, having got a pentakill in the last game. Feeling pretty good about it all. Vi ban here against Weiwei, who does play that champion pretty often when he gets an opportunity, even if the Vi has fallen away from favour in later months.
LNG don't have any magic damage themselves right now, which could be a bit of an issue. Don't you dare hover that. Come on, dude. I mean, the thing is, I would love to see AD Assassins come back in mid lane. This is a problem, though. Assassins are just, like, they're not easy to play, and they're very inconsistent compared to something like that Corki, which you always know what you get out of a Corki. And they're also just better at hitting towers in the mid game. I'd love to see us add at some point, but it ain't happening right now, folks. So Lucian into the Corki. We're seeing a lot more of that matchup. I think it's actually more back and forth in the Tristana Corki matchup because you have to dodge out and more skill shots. It's less about just kind of like using your fleet footwork and continuing to grind through the lane.
Used it, yeah.
So now you have a couple of choices here from Weibo. The brand, we saw that coming through. There are side laning options into the Cassante, Twisted Fate. Gnar is another one. Breathe gets himself his winning lane matchup versus Zucker, and this is now bad news for LNG. When Breathe gets a winning lane, Weibo tends to succeed. Last game, Zucker had a huge advantage over him. I don't think you can do that in the Gnar versus Cassante matchup.
Certainly a lot harder. We've seen it happen occasionally when mini Gnar is misplayed around and then the Cassante gets to shove you back under tower as you're being a little aggressive with your transformations. But now a last pick can come on through and it will be the Karthus, and that is pretty good with things like the double AD carry.
But you don't have that much engaged. This is the problem now. You have an Alistar who has to somehow make their way through the Misfortune E, the Leona CC. You have to get through the Leona in general, who is really, really tanky. Arguably tankier than Alistar, because Alistar only has his ult to be tanky. Leona's very, very tanky, just with the basic ability. So I think Weibo walk away with a much better draft. They have good lanes, winning bot lane, winning top lane, arguably winning mid lane, and I think their teamfight execution is also going to be much easier too. They have the Misfortune ultimate with that Leona. If you ever get caught out, it's very, very painful. Even Alistar and Cassante trying to stand in front of that bullet time are going to get shredded. So LNG, they won through the smoke and mirrors, split map state in game number 1. It was a good showing from them, but Weibo with what I think is a better draft for them in game 2, looking to strike back on that blue side and try and bring this to a game 3.
Well, we know about that. It's always the second movie that has that particular element, and we'll see whether the evils of Weibo Gaming...
Was that Strikes Back?
Yeah, Emperor Strikes Back.
Yes, I get that.
Like the Emperor of Spring striking back, you know, with summer.
Fantastic, Sam.
You know,
don't tell him the season, folks. Don't tell him the season.
There we go. Well, we know what the references are. They'll be Star Wars themed at this point, guys. Just warning you ahead of time. But that is the various champion selections. Interesting. Base Misfortune skin. And everyone else going for the various skins of choice. It is the Reaper Karthus option because that does feel like the pro play skin choice of all.
Folks, high tension series, Ascension, 2 teams on the up. Let's talk about Base Misfortune, folks. We're going into game number 2 in LNG's home arena against Weibo to see who walks away with either an even series or the victory.
Jayo is finishing up for now as way away. Just matching up here against Tarzan briefly. First strike Karthus again. We're seeing that still hang around, even if it has been somewhat nerfed.
Yeah, we saw that Kanavi played it, and played like the poke Karthus and just kind of farmed gold off of it. It has been nerfed. Karthus, its first strike doesn't give you as much gold as it used to. Back to an important topic though. Captain Fortune or Base Fortune?
Base Fortune.
You prefer Base Misfortune?
I think so because Captain Fortune is very alternate universe. I like the look in Ruined King, but I think you're never going to have Captain Fortune's Base Fortune.
No, but just as a skin in general, you prefer Base Fortune?
I think so. I'm not that big a fan of Captain Fortune.
I feel like that is a very minority opinion.
Okay, the skins I actually like. I really like the Bewitching MF is really cool.
Right.
Gun Goddess is super cool VFX. And I'm missing one here off the top of my head. Oh, Broken Covenant. Gorgeous
that
skin.
one's really cool.
Gorgeous skin.
Well, there you go. There you have it.
But yeah, I thought Captain Fortune's just whatever. It's okay. The triple barrel guns are fine.
I really like it. I love it too. Either way, very lane dominant champion going straight in on that Zenith. Like Chris maybe biting off a little more than you can chew there. Gala with the Conqueror, Ezreal is really good at level 1. You need to be really careful of him. Gets really good stats back, and even though Chris chooses to go in on that, loses the trade.
If you want a hot take, Waterloo is a better version of Captain Fortune.
Really? Waterloo is much more kind of like real history, though. It's less of the Bilgewater aesthetic is the thing, though.
There we go. There's the thought on that one as Breathe. Continue to trade up here as my hot takes ring out. Like the Gyos from earlier. That's Scarlet hitting 500 something.
500 games in the LPL. 500 games in the LPL. Gosh, long career for him. And, you know, this dude, the Pentakill Prince, he's been a really solid carry for LNG. I think particularly because Scout in spring and the start of summer took a massive step down in form. Gala was the person who was being the carry. I think that Zucker was another kind of like unsung hero, but he was still, again, buying that opportunity for Gala to do damage when he could do. Xiaohu trying to just mind game that Foss bomb that gets hit back. You can see the Lucian Corki matchup. It is basically who gets to sidestep which skill shot. You can Valkyrie out of the Piercing Light, you can Relentless Pursuit out of that Foss bomb. If one of those things happen, you win the trade.
That'll be the plan. See whether they can manage their dashes well enough, as the MF and the Leona do get the early shot. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise, especially because Alistair at level 1, not really much of a champion.
Yeah, Alistair does this thing where he just headbutts you away and just takes the damage from the headbutt, because let's be honest, he's not going to walk at you and auto you. You can't do exactly much beyond that point.
Ooh,
Tarzan
nice,
very
double up.
Tarzan gets himself a really quick clear towards bot side. Make sure he can spot where the Weiwei is on the bot side of the map already. Will know that Weiwei has got himself a recall in. Tarzan hasn't elected to do a recall just yet, and will be walking into Weiwei. Spots the ward, but he's just used his full combo in the crab.
Oh, that's dangerous for Tarzan. Now trying to sidestep a lot of those skulls, but it's in the middle of all the pain from the Defile, so has to back on out there.
And honestly, LNG, they are really painting a target on their former jungler's back. Tarzan, in game 1, that Hexgate was arguably the end of the game.
Yeah.
This one here, forced to flash out early, thinks he might have mind game, takes a late recall, has to blow his flash, goes towards the top scuttle instead at this point, but LNG already shutting down one of the more important members for Weibo.
Of course, Weiwei was on Weibo last year, so he knows a lot of these members very, very well. It's like, probably what he knows what Xiaohu was doing, honestly. It's like, I know exactly where he'll be. He'll be right here. I've played with him long enough to know this one out.
Gala once again trading well down in the spot side as well. You expect the Leona Misfortune to be a strong lane, but Gala on the Ezreal showing exactly what you can do on this champion early. Now, Weibo, we did say we were looking to see what they do with the winning top lane matchup. Haven't had the Spectator pan over there just yet. He has that early push. Need to see Breathe get side lane pressure. That's one thing that they really missed from their top laner in that first game. Lights out of mana here on bot side. Doesn't have the best ability to turn things around. There could be the chance of a dive.
Gonna try and make it work as Weiwei coming behind, as you noted. Gala not with the most mana, but can still make this work.
Kong's half HP. This is bold.
Yeah, I know. I'm feeling that as well. The Wall of Pain comes down and Weiwei takes a turret shot and decides, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I could. I'd say it's like, oh, maybe it's a dive because Weiwei's hit. Look, it's still a Leona and you're half HP and on your main diver of the Aftershock Alistair. Wasn't really going to happen at that point. Tarzan maybe going to use this point to get himself back into this jungle matchup a little bit more. Of course,
nice.
Forced to flash out, gets himself a free wrap to take over here. Now, of course, he was in a position where he was flashing out of that bot river, but he's still getting access to camps. He's still ahead of Weiwei for now.
And does only manage to get the small Raptors. Can't stay around for the big one. Does reset. Weiwei going to be able to get a hold of this. Does have the smite, I think, as well. So likely secures it. But still, nice little attempt at an invade there from Tarzan.
Yeah, he gets something out of it. And though he is down that flash, getting himself onto enemy jungle camps, always important. We've seen this a lot in summer in the LPL. Taking away enemy jungle camps from a farming jungler can be a win condition. Something that we haven't seen in Global League of Legends probably since about 2021, but we had the Morgana, Udyr, Hecarim farming meta, where it really was, hey, if you get ahead in the jungle matchup, it gets really, really rough. I will say it's not always the most exciting style of gameplay to watch. It can be fun to play because, again, your thought process has really come through. Weiwei is choosing not to go to as much farm, choosing to go into these lanes. It does mean occasionally he's giving options for Tarzan to go take a camp somewhere else. You can see that Weiwei show top side. And the Breathe is going to lose his Mega Gnar, but Tarzan is going to be present in River and Xiaohu and Chris roaming up towards it. Weiwei does need to be careful because he showed early.
Exactly that. Hung, Zucker, Weiwei, all around, but then so is the majority of Weibo Gaming. So we'll get a bit dicey. Zucker gets some of that HP back, courtesy of the honey fruit, but Tarzan starts up the grubs, and doesn't look like LNG are willing to come and contest.
Yeah, Weibo. I think basically seeing that Weiwei didn't manage to land anything top lane and seeing that Scout couldn't really respond in time, get themselves freebie on this one. So Tarzan, again, lost that flash earlier, but hasn't really been like quite with that. Yeah, I think he just about gets it because he got that stun coming through, used that smite in the last part. Tarzan, also worth noting, I think Tarzan is the best brand in the LPL. In terms of mechanically, we've seen some really good play out of Croco the other day, but Tarzan is very, very clutch with his QE flash or Q flash E's, where you kind of get the guaranteed stun by getting the Q on target, flashing forward for the extra tag of that passive, which then of course unlocks that stun. If he can keep doing stuff like that, I really want to see how that will accelerate the game. He has been so important on these carry champions for Weibo in large spades.
Breathe getting a nice chunk here onto this turret, getting a nice plate trade there off the reset from Zucker, who didn't have the teleport, so continue to extend that matchup in their favor right now.
Weiwei hinted into these lanes a fair amount. Does have that first strike, wants to be getting good use of that, which is one of the reasons you do this on that build, right? get into lanes, get yourself that first strike proc, get yourself a tiny bit of extra gold in that early game. Can help you with your first backs and help you get towards that first item. Any little helps, again. Gold on these farming junglers really matters an awful lot. It's something which we've had to pick up again, that skill set as an entire league, globally as well. You know, we had these players like Canyon. I think El Goyo was great on that meta. Loads of these great players were really good at kind of like just pathing for the sake of your own farm selfishly. We haven't had to think about that for a little while though, as we were just kind of reminiscing about earlier. The fact that teams have now had to go towards that means that some of these old farming champion gods have come back out in the jungle.
Yeah, the likes of Graves back in the day was something that Canyon used to be able to do despicable things on. You are able to get free level advantage in jungle if you were playing correctly. It was the place where you could find the biggest discrepancy and was a serious win condition, especially if you were able to get those invades off. And there's a big ult in from Light, flashes away from the turnaround engage. There will be that summoner down from Light, which could be pretty problematic.
Trying to see if Gala front step, he doesn't choose to do so. Light uses the ult but blows the flash. You can see that Gala, if he E's aggressively, things get really difficult. That's kind of a picture of what can happen later. You need to cancel things. Tarzan getting the ult.
Oh, big damage. The Pyroclasm coming across, bounces off Gala. No more there. Tarzan misses the Q, or rather Gala misses the Q onto Tarzan. Let me get my statements correct. Headbutt, pulverized, turnaround is solid, but I think we're still going to see a dead Alistair. I understand the attempt, it overcomes Weiwei. They can still play this one out. Tarzan, remember, down the flash, will likely die here unless Crisp can do a lot of work. Gala gets that one. Now Crisp is in danger, flashes out himself. The slow from the Make It Rain is coming on through, but I don't think Misfortune can throw enough money at this one. The Queen of Bilgewater cannot help Leona as Weiwei picks that one up.
Light was pushing the wave and isn't there to help Weibo when they look for that skirmish in the Tri-Brush. LNG get a kill and an assist onto their Karthus, and it's going to be Weibo losing the bot side fight, which they won in game 1. Scout was first on the roam. Weiwei gets there in time as well. LNG get themselves, what, a couple of kills, and they'll get themselves the dragon after this point. They'll also be able to reset in time for the grubs on top side once they've also hit level 6, importantly, on Hung. LNG, this is a great reprieve for them. It felt like Weibo had a great phase of play at the start of that, but it went just a little too long. This is after, of course, the first big play had come through. Tarzan gets himself that QE stun, and the ult does get a decent amount of value as it bounced off the minion wave and both members of the bot lane. I think they realize at this point, though, that time is starting to run out. People will be responding bot side. That's why Tarzan goes for this very aggressive flash. I think Light makes a huge mistake, though. He stays and pushes the wave. He's not there at this fight here. If he's around, maybe they can go and lock someone down, use the Misfortune's early damage. But he's here a couple of seconds late. Doesn't use that heal well. Now we're back into the top side.
All out comes on through his breathe. Hits many now. That was always going to be the worry. And Hung is there as well. True Shot Barrage comes flying on through from Gala. Breathe down the flash after a solid roam from Hung.
You can see that Weibo really struggling to deal with LNG being more proactive on the map. God, how many times have we had to say that this split? It's not been that many. LNG have typically been the slower team. The fact that they're unlocking these earlier game options, that Weiwei is being very prominent in this early game. It's a good sign for LNG. You know, we have praised Weibo, and we'll see whether Weibo is going to get caught out here. He's dead.
There's no way out, no flash, no hope for that one. And Xiao, who not donated the kill because the burn from Tarzan takes it.
Hey, at least one of them gets it. AP jungler ahead of that matchup. Tarzan, the rightful carrier of his team. LNG is playing around towers again, though. Look, we have praised LNG for their play around towers. I think we've praised both mid laners for stepping up in form. Praised Breathe from stepping up in his individual matchup. All of these bits and pieces have shown improvements for these teams. I think particularly LNG has shown improvement in their proactivity in the early game. That was one of their biggest flaws. Breathe, I don't really think you can take this big trade. He's just going to take a big chunk out of that. But really, I think it's good to see both of these teams, which you expected a lot more from, stepping up to the plate.
6 grubs now taken. The Misfortune trading into the Cassante, interestingly. There's no all-out for a while, so the MF should be safe despite the flash being down. Always a slight concern as Crisp shadowing Breathe here, where there might be a bit of a look in onto this Nah, who's gone for the pink variety? We all know that was Armut's specialty back in the day.
Yeah, so what do you mean he's got a small champion pool? He can play Gentleman Gnar, and Astronaut Gnar, and Elder Gnar.
Yes.
Fantastic there. Ult on top side for the quick wave clear. Light, I guess, just predicting that he won't be needed for a fight in the next minute as that kind of comes. Minute as soon as it comes down. That'll also buy him his recall. For those of you that don't know the tech on Misfortune, he's probably getting himself towards the first item now. Bloodthirster allows you to have the overshield again now. Having an overshield means that when you have that shield, you haven't taken damage to your champion's HP bar. If you don't take damage to your champion's HP bar, you don't lose your W's movement speed passive, which means that Light will now, even mid-fight, and in some of the quicker trades when you're not losing that shield fully, be able to move around the map and use that W movement speed very, very powerfully. Of course, that was one of the things that was buffed recently on Misfortune. So the Bloodthirster build, which we saw last time, it had the Overshield, came through as well, still very powerful.
Oh, exactly that, and Misfortune able to keep up that move speed passive makes her a lot more valuable in fights. Her ability to roam, her ability to stay alive, basically by outpacing you with tier 2 boots, feels really, really good. Obviously getting that overshield, as you said, makes it a lot harder for you to lose that, which always used to be a real concern in the championship when I otherwise outrange you.
So, Weibo, they are still now ahead in gold. They have themselves 6 grubs, and they have a winning top lane matchup, but Gnar can actually hit towers. So, despite LNG winning that bot side play and having, you know, Gala getting onto the board early, Weiwei getting onto the board early, I'm kind of worried now for the mid game. It feels like a bit of a flip from the last one, where, you know, Weibo won the early game play, but then actually the side lanes got really difficult in the mid game either way. Feels like Weibo now have that advantage, even though they lost through that bot side in terms of the early skirmish. LNG are going to run out of side lane options against the 6 grub Gnar, especially at 1 to 2 items.
Yeah, it could get difficult. Of course, Scout will eventually be an okay matchup into that. Xiaohu again has actually taken the Lucian tech with the barrier himself that we saw earlier in the day from UCal.
UCal played it, yeah. Got a one away with like an 11-1-7 game, by the way. The one death was overstaying in a side lane, which was not as good. But I have to say, Lucian mid hadn't impressed me that much as a champion. We saw Chovy play it, saw Knight play it, saw Yukai play it. It did feel like it was quite hard to make it work, and a lot of even the best players in the world were not getting a huge amount of value out of it. However, now I think we're seeing players pick this up a bit more. They're getting more practice at it, getting more value. Crisp out going in, but misses Zenith Blade.
That's unfortunate. Could be problematic as it goes on, but no one's burned anything super dangerous right now. Ultimates and flashes still remaining, so the fight can definitely be restarted on short notice.
So what's happening with Teleport? Zucker, Breathe, they both have theirs. They could join if they wanted to. I think Weibo would rather have the Gnar left alone in this side lane, trying to get whatever advantages he can. Hung's going forward again, but it's onto Light with the Bloodthirster shield. Really hard to get good value there. A couple of times now where we said this from the draft, Hung is the only engage for this team. We've seen a lot of LPL teams go towards limited engage. Makes it much harder to find your picks, whereas this engage, much easier.
Scout trying to hold on here for as long as he can. Eventually feels, yeah, I'm just going to have to flash early. Does so. Herald now started. But a key summoner blown by both Tarzan and Scout.
Close on the EQ stun from Tarzan. If that hits, that is a very dead Corki. Not to be the case, though. Dragon going to be started from LNG. Herald taken by Weibo. No Ziggs in this game for the hyper kind of Herald push, but you still have good tower destroying potential with the 6 grubs and the Gnar, the Misfortune, great ability to kill towers. Teleporting towards that bot side. Scout's done this before. He will just sometimes teleport to his top laner's lane to make sure they break open the map. This feels like a uniquely Scout thing to do. However, it's left this mid lane open, and as we said, very good tower damage coming through from the Misfortune, particularly if there's a wave there. You can see that Weiwei just looking to poke out the whole team with his first strike ultimate at that point.
Yeah, and he'll get him some gold, of course. With the Blackfire Torch completed as well, always feels nice. There's a lot of no vision though, and that means Hung's in danger. Crisp gets damage down onto Hung, who flashed over the wall. Headbutt afterwards, can't quite headbutt far enough away though. And it will still be a dead cow and steaks for breakfast for Weiwei.
Yeah, look, one of those burns was going to kill him. Chris still has his ult. It's on to Weiwei.
Oh, that's a brutal one. The bullet time comes on through. The culling afterwards, not that great as Tarzan. Looking to get something more. Gala sidesteps the Pillar of Flame, but the tier 1 will likely fall in mid lane. Scout now here. Maybe Weibo have overstepped. The Wall of Pain is solid, but they're going to continue to shove towards this mid lane. Gala with no mana and the burn off that conflagration, taking Gala down so low. Now Scout's in danger. Remember, has no flash, goes down as well. And Weibo continue the snowball.
LNG can't find the retreat. They use a load of their mobility spells to get out of these quick picks, but there's so many of them come through that they just run out of cooldowns. Weibo, while all this is happening, worst case scenario for LNG has happened. Breathe is alone in a side lane using 6 grubs to destroy towers. If you can get this full tower, I think that LNG might have just let that top lane get out of control as well. This feels like it is now the breaking moment. You have the mid lane turret gone. You're going to have the map opened up because you're not going to be able to defend your side lane turrets versus 6 grubs. LNG tried to make their power play through the side lanes with Scout teleporting down to take that tower. I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think Weibo have unlocked themselves now their side lane win condition.
Let's have a look again, because it's a solid pick here that puts them in so much danger. The Solar Flare bullet time combo is pretty brutal.
Got to flash early or it's going to be lights out for you. Way greedy pathing going back towards that mid lane. And he's going to end up getting really caught out. Scout ends up just, again, really pathing himself, trying to get some wave play maybe on the back minions. If he gets one big rocket, it clears them out.
Yeah.
So that's what he's doing. He's afraid of the 6 grub push onto the mid lane in a turret, but it's a step too far. He's used his flash, he's used his Valkyrie, dies for it. Good punish.
Hung now in danger, goes forwards, headbutts light away, trying to find an escape. Does manage to get out of dodge for now. Gala gets a decent true shot barrage across a couple. Tier 2 in the top lane though, now under siege from Weibo Gaming. Gala left alone under this turret, could be in danger of Crisp engaging.
Crisp, another player which has had, look, we could say this about a lot of players on both teams. It means it is great to have these kind of redemption arcs, right? Crisp has been very much maligned on this team. He has been someone who has missed a lot of in big engages. He's had some very awkward points. Scout ended up dying again in the picture-in-picture as well, and a lot of that's through Crisp, because Crisp has now started to find these big engages again. If he comes back on form in the same way that we were asking Xiaohu and Scout to, it does level up this team. We expect so much from these individual players that it's so important that they show what they absolutely can. Breed's going to steal himself a blue buff away from Weiwei on the other side, and that Gnar is becoming just a real pest.
All the outer turrets down. They've managed to get another couple kills. The map is getting very small for our LNG, and we know that the likes of Karthus, who don't get access to farm, feel increasingly miserable. Hung caught again, burned out in seconds, trying to put down some vision around the spawn of the Baron, and then this river dies pretty cleanly to Tarzan. It's now 4-1-2 on the brand.
Tarzan is going to be really scary. He is one of the best brands in the LPL. He's really got the goal to showcase that now at this point. Weibo massively winning through side lanes, and you know, it feels like Weibo, they didn't get that side lane advantage in game 1. LNG had that winning matchup for Zucker, which really flipped things in their favor. I think with Zucker not being able to hold down Breathe and give some extra breathing room on the map, very, you know, topically in that case, I think Weibo have been so much more free to play out this style, which they have been really specialized in. Back last year, they were one of the few teams who played 1-3-1. This is now a return to that. They haven't always had to play towards it. They were a very versatile, flexible team. But I feel like as it stands right now, 1-3-1 is one of the skill sets which they're very developed at. Even in the last game when they were behind, they found themselves some options after making that big mistake with that Hexscape. Can LNG find a way to break the 1-3-1, or will Weibo fall into their comfort and walk away with the game?
Every lane aside from mid ahead pretty happily this game. Of course, not like LNG are entirely out of this game. They've still got 2 dragons, soul points spawning in 30 seconds, and they scale pretty well with a double AD carry, and of course the Karthus, but it does feel like it's becoming very difficult for any of these members to step up and shove a wave, get anything resembling a turret. They've only got one, and that's in the bot lane. That's the outer turret there.
And the whole thing with that scaling conversation, you know, it's very valid talking about, well, look, you've got double AD carries and Karthus, they do damage. How are they going to do that damage?
Yeah.
You know, you have an Alistar who is going to be slowed. Let's put it this way, if Alistar is hit by the Misfortune E, you don't have engage, because the slow on that Alistar means you have to commit your flash. You're not going to be able to find the clumps which you need to. LNG, if they are hitting training dummies at level 16, yeah, they're going to do a hell of a lot of damage. I find it so hard to believe that they'll be able to do that. At this point, they would have loved to get Dragon, like, Soul Point, because at that point, maybe they engage into you, and maybe you can use your damage that way. But it becomes such a conditional statement that the whole scaling conversation kind of becomes a lot less powerful.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, you've got the Cassante and a flank from that onto, say, the Misfortune, who doesn't have that many ways to disengage that unless the passive on the W is up and giving you enough move speed. That could get difficult. It's just not very easy to find angles. That's what you're looking at, is a Giga flank at that point.
Yeah, we're clutching at straws here, folks. If you couldn't tell, we're clutching at straws. Like, well, maybe Cassante can fly. God, trying to do that with a losing lane state and against carries with flashes up.
Why are you getting watered,
It's so hard. And yeah, you know, so credit to Weibo for setting up a map state where they're winning so many lanes where it deprives the options. This is what we need to see. Like, make sure you punish LNG for having less of a win condition. For LNG, they have at least managed to get some gold onto Scout on this Corki. Maybe he can be a difference maker. It really does feel like it is on Hung, though, on this Alistar to find a miracle pick somehow, someway onto an isolated target before Weibo get their big carries into the right position.
Second item complete pretty much across the board now for Weibo Gaming. The Warmogs in for the Leona as well. They are very happy to start any fight they can find right now. Still not quite there really for LNG, who are in danger. Weiwei flashes the Solar Flare, stays alive, but again that summoner is blown.
And that's such a big problem. It is so ruthless playing a Karthus against heavy engage. I think Karthus versus Leona is one of the worst kind of meta matchups right now, because particularly when Leona gets really tanky, you can't dissuade Leona with burst damage because she presses W and she's completely fine. If you don't have someone giving you that pocket to play through, you have to flash backwards. The Baron's being started. You can't flash into the pit. Hung. It's on a flash combo or nothing.
They're going to wait for a blast cone spawn. Going to throw out the ultimate. It's a pretty decent chunk. And with the burn there and the Baron debuffing their resist, they decide against it.
Yeah, Weibo also see that their top laners run out of Magnar, so Breathe doesn't have that big team fighting ultimate. Crisp, he's caught out for now, but again, Alistair might even be forced to go back.
Double up onto Weiwei. Does a lot of work with the brand damage as well.
Very, very hard to get this engaged. This is exactly what I was saying. Okay, LNG, what do we do? They do peel off of the Baron, though, and it does mean that mid lane out of turrets come through. LNG, they find something from nothing here. That's much better than I expected.
Get some resets coming on through. I'm going to try and potentially run up this mid lane for something. Breathe with the Mega. Gets a stun, but it's well W by Zika, who flashes out of the Pillar of Flame.
Clutch stuff from Zucker. Again, LNG, you can see how hard it is for them to survive so many of these picker tanks. They do stop the Baron from being started or finished from Weibo, and they manage to get themselves their mid lane out of turret. The fact that they get anything from that is testament to how LNG and how poised they were on the disengage at that point. It's still within touching distance of that gold. They don't walk away with kills, but they do walk away with something onto the map in terms of that tower gold. If they can now get Scout into topside to take this one, again, they're getting Corki a little bit more relevant too. It doesn't make the game, easy, but it makes it easier.
No, exactly that. And again, credit to LNG for getting something, because they were really struggling with map pressure. Getting these outer turrets gives them just a little bit more opportunity. Can't quite secure the outer turret in top lane. It takes, what, an auto attack left, but with Crisp roaming up and Xiaohu there, they can't stick around for it.
Okay, so, LNG, now the problem is, you still have to deal with this side lane of the Gnar. I think that this is where the matchup gets really quite difficult, where Breeze starts getting 2 items. I think, luckily for LNG, he hasn't gone towards the Black Cleaver. I think that makes that side lane matchup even more unwinnable for the Cassante, and you can start abusing that a hell of a lot. With 6 grubs, Weibo can just say, okay, we're going to play through side lanes. They are going to continually draw LNG to this play, though. If this allows Breeze to get a push in bot lane, and Scout has to teleport away, they can just peel back off, wait for that inner turret to fall, and LNG, they're going to have to really find a way to somehow stop Weibo from just pulling them apart.
Essence Reaver second for the Misfortune. Was a build on her of old, but it's kind of coming back again.
It's
Mana on hit is super valuable though for her, because her E in particular is incredibly mana intensive, and her mana pool is very small.
That's very true, actually. Yeah. So anyway, she's going to get herself to that one, starting up the Baron again. Breathe pushing in bot side, trying to force maybe the teleport out of Scout. Breathe is in a teleport position. He's coming in, and he's in a very dangerous position for Weiwei.
Oh my days, this could be a pretty scary. Hang on, hold on. Weiwei gets stunned up. That's a huge amount of damage. Baron is secured though by Weibo Gaming nonetheless. Now the Breathe on the Gnard, trying to back away, doing as much as he can to get out of dodge. Xiaohu in danger, manages to relentless pursuit over the wall. Somehow, some way, Weibo Gaming are retreating towards the other side of the map. In comes the ultimate from the Carthers. Will stop Crisp's regenning with the Warmogs. Breathe and Mega still being slowed, still in a potentially dangerous position, and Weibo have got the Barons. I think they just need to get out of here with all the members attacked.
Yeah, LNG, they were starting to get a team fight which looked okay for them. A split fight where Garlic could start eating forwards. So Baron on 5 members for Weibo. They do lose a turret. However, Weibo, they don't have to immediately reset. Misfortune, very quick at running across the map, goes immediately into mid lane. So even though LNG get the final tower of the outer ring from Weibo, they're losing inner towers. So they're going to lose themselves the Baron gold and then the inner turret gold beyond this point. The overall cross map works out, of course, in favor of Weibo.
The gold lead was beginning to neutralize somewhat, but now LNG going to lose another dragon. They're going to lose the Baron in a really solid place now.
Yeah, I was wondering whether they'd be able to rush this in time. They are, with both Tarzan's burn and then, of course, Xiaohu coming through. Chris should just be fine. LNG, they're walking away with everything at this point. It took a little while to organize it. They get themselves the resets now, too. Breathe going forwards with Mega.
Nearly got that one there. Gets a fairly decent chunk. Flash away. Goes to his own. And the Mega Gnar into the wall. It's brutal, but Breathe dies. The damage afterwards can still be big. Zucker just about alive. Carthus eventually goes down to his Pilotis passive, and the Requiem is solid. But look at the bullet time. Time for another grave.
Light gets himself, finally, that team fight participation, gets the 1 kill at the end of that, and this is now worst case scenario for LNG, where they give up both objectives and they lose themselves like a couple of deaths on the defense of the Baron. Because they have people off the map, it's much harder for them to wave clear. If Weibo get themselves into lanes, LNG could be in a huge amount of trouble. How does this one start off? You can see that Light runs across the map so quickly. I don't think LNG realized that Light would be here so quickly. That means they have to flash back. Breathe does go too far. He tries to set up for the bullet time, doesn't quite manage to get to it, but even through that, Tarzan is in range to do the extra damage. The first part of the fight, I think, goes a lot better for LNG than they expected, but the overstay into the long-range damage in the second part.
And now the Lord Dominic's regards is in for this misfortune as well. That ultimate's going to hit even harder than it already was.
Zucker's on a flank. He has that flash. We did talk about flanking threats later on.
Huge.
Tarzan's caught.
That's a big moment. Tarzan, critical damage down. Crisp gets onto Gala, but Gala should still be able to run down this Leona. The damage at this point from the Ezreal pretty huge. Who needs engage when you can just do this on Ezreal? Gets enough autos, and that's another couple quick kills.
So, LNG managed to get some of those Baron buffs away. That's 3 out of 5 now gone, but it is still 6 grubs, and if one lane is left accounted for, it's going to be Weibo cross-mapping on you almost for certain. So, LNG, I think in defense of the Baron, they've done a really good job on the whole. Hung's now kind of caught out. He's going to have to worry about this one. Has enough CC to see it out for now, and Breathe will get into his minion up and not be able to chase down. So, Weibo, not the cleanest set of Baron plays, and LNG survive another day, even if they're down another couple of thousand gold.
Yeah, they are in a pretty scary position, but at least the Ezreal, at least the Corki are starting to get some gold.
Tarzan, I just don't think he realized Scout would be there. So Scout walks up to Tarzan after he's used his full combo. They do get the kill on Scout, but I think that would have been a lot cleaner if Tarzan, of course, had his regular abilities beyond that point. They overstay. They think that they, 6 scrubs, Herald, they want to get onto these towers, but they don't quite have the front line. They don't have quite the ward coverage to spot at everything. Hung does get himself a combo onto one of those immobile carries. It's quite hard to do that. I think LNG, their team combo looks a lot better the more split the fight is. This is a microcosm of how they could win a fight. It's just so hard to arrange that in the first place.
They are starting to get those items. The Cyrildas on the Ezreal, the Lord Dominic's on the Corki. They are going to begin to be a little bit more threatening onto a composition that is still relatively squishy in and of its own right. The Meganar is temporary. The Leona, again, the tankiest member, but again, as the game goes on...
It's like the Meganar is temporary. Leona is forever.
Yeah, exactly, it is. Eclipse feels like it lasts forever at the minute, at least.
Yeah, it does. So don't look up to the sky too much. You might have burning your retinas. You need to use that special glass for it. Scout, try to wave play. Scout has been really hard forced onto this game as well. I think that he had a good first game, but the second game he has been really... had a target put on his back, so need to see whether he can, with his items, 3 items, get himself to a point where he can damage the front line in the right way. He's gone for the Lord Doms instead of the Fire Cannon. He wants to kill that Leon as best as possible. Hung is not tanky unless he has his ult running. You can see exactly what happens if he gets hit by a few autos and skill shots.
Does have them Warmogs at this point, so not going to be forced to retreat. Breathe, not at Mega yet. Crisp goes forward, slightly ugly positioning. Zucker now dangerous. Crisp has to flash away. Now the turnaround onto the red buff being started. Breathe looking for that Meganar angle.
He is, and with Tarzan getting that W on target, see the damage coming through the bullet.
Soulflare wide.
Soulflare's wide, Hung going forward. Here it comes!
Ooh, Tarzan flashes on out, now Hung in danger himself. Breathe over the wall looking for an angle on him. Doesn't quite find it yet. Now goes looking. And Crisp will survive. Hung does not.
So it's only the one for none. Baron spawning in a minute, Dragon spawning in a minute, so it's not an immediate objective take. But what Weibo do with this is they manage to just keep their vision line really high up, and they stop LNG getting any defensive vision for that Baron spawning in the next minute. Weibo are going to get themselves a resets now, so it's not like LNG won't have any chance to get vision through, but you can just see how hard it is for LNG to take front-to-back fights. They're trying to find these players onto the less mobile carries in the backline, but if their flashes are available, it's really, really hard. Hung has an absolutely demonic job ahead of him, trying to get onto those carries as the soul engage. It's a really hard job.
I'll note, though, that Tarzan and Leona down their flashes. Tarzan, in particular, if he dies early, could prove precipitous to an LNG comeback.
What the hell does precipitous mean? It's a great sounding word. What does it mean?
It means you're on the edge of a precipice.
Oh, that's what it is. I thought it was like precipitation. I'm like, oh, it's raining.
No.
Yeah, it's the one. Well, when it rains, it pours. Let's see if LNG can find themselves another engage, or whether Weibo will get themselves more of those combos they've been looking for. Xiaohu jumping forwards, hit with a Q, but he has that Bloodthirster. Easy for him to regen off of it. Dragon spawned. LNG might have to try and force something around the Baron. It's not like it's Soul on the other side.
Alright, Gala takes a bit of a chunk there as Misfortune throws out a Q and says, eat gunfire, and Ezreal goes, ow.
And in the bot lane as well, Breathe has himself 3 items. While all this is happening, when the objective chance is happening, watch what's happening with Breathe in the side lane. The fact that Breathe has this winning matchup gives Weibo the chance to put LNG on a timer. They're burning down the Baron. Is it quick enough?
I think it might be. There's no way that Tarzan's getting in. He doesn't have a flash. The Solar Flare is solid. Can he get in there in time? It's going to be a smite fight. Does go down to Karthus. The damage after was pretty good, but Tarzan, dead, does get murdered by the true shot barrage. Crisp into the backline. So likely to go down. Rubber doesn't have the flash. Gets the set his blade down, but the damage afterwards is just so huge. What's for the Requiem, though? Murders a couple more. Zucker is here, but everyone else is pretty much dead.
Xiaohu on the brink of a quadra kill. Zucker trying to stop it, but he can't. Xiaohu back in form, back on the kill board. Quadra kill for the Lucian, second of our day.
Hangs up his crown in spring, picks it up in summer perhaps. a return to the throne in his brain. They get a huge amount of damage. They wipe the Baron. They've got 2 members they can shove in to try and end the game.
6 grubs, 280 carries effectively. The Gnar counts as mini. I think they can look for the game just like we saw on our first series of the day. Lucian, 6 grubs, huge kills in the team fight, looking to end things off. Hung trying to get a combo, maybe kill some minions.
Does manage to stun up Xiaohu, but the tower's still being tanked out. 10 seconds on Gala. 6 now on Scout. Trying to buy some damage. Hung being run down by Xiaohu. Needs to get his Warmogs up. Xiaohu will intend to take some turret shots. Not quite down. Is there a potential world where a teleport comes on through? No, there is not. The game still stands.
There is a teleport.
Here we go.
Through, but it's coming from Scout. He's going to kill Xiaohu in return. Flashing forward. Gets the kill. Scout kills his opposing number. Weibo don't end the game, but they do get themselves... Wait, they don't even get themselves the Baron.
They get the Baron, but everyone's dead.
Well, no one gets a Baron because LNG got it, and then they all died. Weibo, now they get themselves back onto the map. Xiaohu's dead for another 40 seconds. He can't participate. He's still going to be spending his, 5 kills worth of gold from that last string of plays. Weibo, they don't end the game, but they do get themselves a lot of gold. They deny the Baron, which was taken by LNG, and they get themselves everything down to the bare Nexus of LNG. 1 turret standing, so that will just be in the way. And Wizard came through to this team fight. You thought maybe being able to get that Alistair combo onto the backline would be enough, but it's so hard to stand there after you've tanked the Baron for so long.
Gala gets over the wall, but the autos still follow him, so Xiaohu coming in late does so much damage. Be a little upset to die at the end of it all, but the game still keeps going. The Baron was taken, and I appreciate LNG for taking the gamble. It nearly worked.
That's about the only way things could have worked out. They were put on a timer by Breathe in a side lane. That has been the difference between this game and the last. Weibo, they can genuinely put LNG under macro pressure. They can't chill. They need to see whether Breathe is going to take something at that bot side. They almost make it work, but it just adds an extra degree of difficulty. Now I'm looking through at the big summoners available from Weibo, because that's going to be a big part of how LNG approach the next fight. Couple of minutes until the objectives are coming up, so it's not necessarily going to happen soon, but for the time being, Xiaohu don't have those flashes. Tarzan does, which means it's really hard to lock this brand out of a fight. One of these carries goes into a good team fighting angle. I think LNG are going to be probably walking away with a couple of deaths on top of it. Need to find split fights, find someone where the carries can't follow up on the damage.
But the Lucian, the Misfortune don't have their flash. Could be problematic. Gala! It's gone!
He E'd forward, and Weibo punish. Gala, the pentakill prince of game 1, goes down in such an important moment. LNG, there was nothing to fight over. Gala dies on at the worst possible time.
What has he done? A moment of madness and the game is over. That one just isn't it. There's a solar flare afterwards. Gets a slow onto Weiwei. In a 3v5, they must try and hold. But Misfortune unleashes her whole arsenal into the back line. Everyone is dead. It took them a moment or two longer. But Weibo Gaming, even the series up.
Gala giveth, Gala taketh away. That game wasn't on him, but the ending of it certainly was. Ease forwards into oblivion, and we find ourselves with an even series between 2 teams looking to redeem themselves. It is all square here, 1-1 between Weibo and LNG and Suzhou.
Well, that one kind of sucked.